So for this week episode, we'll start with. I'm sorry for that. I forgot to turn on my mic. Well, so for this week episode, we start with Monster Girl Doctor. Monster Girl Doctor have a very decent episode. We finally met that giant. She was a cutie. There's no much ecchi scene, which is good. Generally a fine episode, an average episode. I still did enjoy it a lot. Yeah, mine low B, that would be sufficient. So on Tuesday we have Fruit Basket. So Fruit Basket this week was continuation for last week, where Yuki emphasized on he loves his relationship with Toru, right? A motherly. He looks for a motherly relationship with Toru. So it's not as emotional as last week episode, but it is still a good episode. And then there's the confrontation with with Kyo. Yuki is basically, I'm pretty sure at this point Yuki is trying to play the wingman for Kyo. Solid A episode, mid A. And then there's the whole scene between Kyo and Toru at the end. That was lovely. That was cute. I think Kyo finally learns that he needs to take care of Toru a bit more. Also on Tuesday, God of High School. That was an amazing episode. Basically Mira takes the center stage for this episode because she needs to, because between the three of them, between Jin, Mira and Dewi, Mira is the weakest. So she have the biggest room to she needs to grow more than the other. So this episode she did grow a lot more. She showed her skill, her determination to become better, and she got her first chariot. So that's a good episode. A very emotional one too. Right? Because she feel like she doesn't deserve that sword. She doesn't deserve Moon Style, but she still herself and pushed through it. Now, after God of High School, it's Wednesday. Wednesday is Hokabu Tebunishi. So this episode, we see at first they learn to swim in emergency cases, right? Which means if there's swimming, then that means we can see a lot more Ono Senpai. So this week, the first half was very informative about drowning, and then the second half was quite emotional, where they discuss about fishermen not cleaning their stuff after fishing, which leads to environmental hazard, which cause damage to the wildlife, and that was very heartfelt. A solid A. I would put it as solid A. Very good episode, informative episode. And then on Thursday we have Decadence and ReZero. We'll talk Decadence first. So Decadence this week is their mission to infiltrate the factory and destroy the factory. So the plan as a whole was very interesting. They burned the Gadol poop underground and then contaminated the whole water, which triggers the Gadol inside the water to create the zone, which would help Kaburagi and Natsume mobilize. So the plan was very interesting, executed very interestingly. And then Kaburagi fight Higun. Yeah, and then we got a lot of Sark moment. He was betrayed. Sark sacrificed himself. And the most important thing is Natsume finally realized. Kaburagi told Natsume that everything around her is fake. That was a big moment. I would put a high A. You can make a case for a low S, but I think a high A makes more sense. Yeah, ReZero. So ReZero have a big episode this week because we met a lot of new witches, right? So the episode start with them, Echidna basically explaining how Subaru resets work. And then Subaru, wanting to defeat the Great Rabbit, want to meet Daphne, the Witch of Gluttony. When he want to Witch of Gluttony, the scene becomes fun because he first meet Typhoon, the witch of pride, who fucks him up, and then he met witch of wrath, Raph, Minerva, who heals him, and then finally he met Daphne. All of them have a great design. Their meetings was interesting. It was informative. But the highlight of this episode was definitely when he woke up from the tea party. He met Satella for the first time physically too, and Emilia wasn't there, so that might tell us something. As the episode, it was very fun, interesting, but is it emotional as God of High School? No, so I would put it a bit lower than God of High School. Oregairu, honestly, a decent episode because there's nothing much this episode, because the prom is gonna go through, so there's nothing much to do this episode. Basically, they are trying to celebrate Hiki's sister going into their school. We got a lot of Yui moment, Yui with Yui Mama, Gaha Mama. That was cute. Overall, a decent, an average episode, I would say. At B. Now, on Saturday, we have Rent a Girlfriend. Oh my god. This episode is quite divisive for me. Well, I love that Ruka being Ruka, basically. This episode was actually very entertaining. Ruka tries to win Kazuya, and Kazuya's family was entertaining, but at the same time, Kazuya is dragging shit out. I'm not a big fan of this. I'm not a big fan of Kazuya as a whole. Kazuya's presence there was really shitting me out. I would put this at B, a bit lower than Oregairu, because let's face what Kazuya ruined it. Let's be honest, I'm not a big fan of Kazuya. Oh. Now we move on to Uzaki. So Uzaki, this episode, the focus was on Uzaki Mama, same like Oregairu, who have the focus on Gaha Mama. So Uzaki Mama, she's pretty fun, to be honest, for her episode. She quick to misunderstand everything about Sakurai. At first, she thought Sakurai was a dangerous man, and then he thought that Sakurai would want her body. So that's hilarious. The whole episode is basically that, and I loved it. It brings a different contrast. She's very contrast to Hina herself, to Hana herself. So that's pretty fun. I put that a bit higher than Oregairu. Not exactly A, but I would put it low A. I enjoyed it a lot. Fire Force. Oh, by the way, Peter Grill, I dropped it, so D. Peter Force. Peter Grill. Fire Force. So for Fire Force, this week's episode we have basically Shinra got the grace from the black lady, the black cloth lady, and then there's the fight scene. The fight scene wasn't as awesome as Ogun fight scene, so it was okay. But we get a lot more info from this episode about how the Amaterasu works, the probability that one of the pillar is inside the Amaterasu. Yeah, it was generally an informative episode, but not exactly the most entertaining. Lower than Random Girlfriend. Yeah. Lower than Random Girlfriend. Now, the Misfit of Demon Academy. They are usually here, right? They're usually at B. They are not that great, but they are a good fun power fantasy. But this episode, they took it to another whole level. I put it at S. Lower S. Why? Because this episode, they have a lot of stakes in it, because the pride of the Demon Academy is is at stake, right? And the Hero Academy is being a pretty shady competitor. So during the whole thing, the Hero Academy student is trying to is trying to play unfair, and yeah, it is. I don't like that. We don't like that. But Anos being Anos, he just do shit his way, and Anos being a super badass this episode, right? You imagine he wants to balance the game, right? He just evaporate the whole lake like a proper badass. So yeah, this episode was pure Anos badassery. If that's a word, then that's it. Pure Anos badassery here at S. SEO. SEO. So after we know that Asuna and Kirito is stuck in the underworld, we basically, the focus of this episode is in the real world, right? So the good thing this episode is that Miller is dead, and he saw his own soul being fucked up. So that was satisfying, at least. And then the Heathcliff made a comeback. Yeah, Heathcliff detonate a bomb, but somehow Heathcliff repair himself. A lot of messy things in SAO that doesn't make sense. And then Vasago waking up, which doesn't make sense too, at least for now. But there's a cute moment of Asuna and Kirito at the end. Here, I guess, average episode, not that great. Definitely better than Rent a Girlfriend was better because Ruka was cuter. But it is definitely better than Fire Force. Yeah. I think, yeah, this is a fair placement for it. Vasago is going to kill Kirito next episode, so who knows? It might be interesting. And I hope that that next episode focus more on Asuna and Kirito in Underworld. So yeah, that concludes for last week's episode anime tier list. God of High School definitely take first place. A good fight scene and everything. These are your top threes. A lot of episode at the mid table. Can't help with that. Yeah, that's it for this video.